Hello, everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony,
I'm Eric.
and boy, Eric, I did a reaction show. We have over 500 views right now. Um, there are a lot of people from our show that are following it. There were a lot of people from Steeler Nation that was looking at it. You know, because people like to see people in pain. I think what surprised me the most about the reaction to the reaction show was how many people didn't have either the ability, the time, the intelligence, or the capability of listening to the entire 30 minutes. Because I actually had people comment, well, why weren't you complaining about the Saints PI call last year in the championship game? How quickly you forget. And I literally did talk about it in that show. So I found that to be extremely hilarious. So
Well, the old adage: people see what they want to see. People hear.
people, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, people hear what they want to hear. Yeah. You cut out at the end there. That's why I'm saying that. I'll go a step further. Okay. People know the truth, but a lot of people find the truth to be inconvenient. What do they call it? The inconvenient truth. So they just hear what they want to hear, like you said, and move on. But the reality is, nobody has been more critical of the Rams than me this year. And I'm glad that the Ramily is coming together going, man, the Rams offensive line is trash. You know, but I've got Steeler fans telling me that this is a top five defense. If this is a top five defense, then you can call me LeBron James. I don't give a crap
Well,
what they are statistically. That is not a top five defense.
they are a lot better with Fitzpatrick. I'll give them that. They have actually hit another level that I didn't think I'd see with them before the trade, and then after the trade, he has done wonders for that secondary. And I'm not saying that he was being wasted in Miami or whatnot, but people play a little bit differently when they go from an 0 and whatever team to a team that really is still kind of in the thick of it in the AFC North. So your level of play kind of like jumps up a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's to be expected. And Fitzpatrick is a great player. And he wasn't being wasted in Miami. It's just that there were so many holes around him that he wasn't able to step up and do things. Look, Fitzpatrick or Mika Fitzpatrick, he had an okay game. He had a good game. I'm not going to say he had a great game. I think Hayden, the former Cleveland Brown, had a better game than he did. I will tell you that Fitzpatrick's touchdown is garbage. So I'll do my breakdown on the show again. You can consider this a reaction to show. But before we get into any of that, let's keep to the format. So we only covered two games. And then I'm going to get into some stuff. Okay? But let's start with the Bears and Lions. All right? So Eric, take it away.
All right. Well, the Bears won 20-13. I don't know what more else you want. Trubisky had a few good throws. They scored 3 touchdowns. Great, yada yada. I mean, it's not all fixed after 1 week. You beat the Lions. You beat a team that is not as good as you are, and there are no style points in the NFL. It's just wins and losses. And the Bears got to win. I think they needed a win. I think it was good for their morale. I think there was a lot of tension around Hallis Hall the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they really needed to get this W and just kind of breathe easier, I guess you could say. However, they let up a field goal in the opening drive, and they kind of really clamped down on it. They got to turn over a couple sacks. Driscoll was able to run out of the pocket and actually get a lot of time for himself. As long as his receivers, Jones and Hawkinson and Galladay got downfield. And he had a nice throw to make it 20-13 in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth.
Yeah.
There was still the first 5 drives were 3 and out. I'm sorry, the first 4 drives were 3 and out. The 5th drive finally yielded a play that was over 10 yards. And then finally, I don't know what it was, but the light clicked on for about a quarter and a half, and they were just slinging it all downfield. And it looked good. The Bears still aren't getting over 300 yards a game. They only scored 20 points. So I don't know what else more that you want that the Bears can really do and improve right now. I mean, they're just kind of just there. And I actually want them to win. And the reason for that is because we don't have a first-round pick, and I don't want the Raiders getting a top 10 pick. The better the Bears do here in the last half of the NFL season, the Raiders pick gets a little bit worse in the first round. That's what I'm eyeing. And I'm still trying to eye improvements. They're still carrying the ball. They're averaging 3.4 yards a carry. And I know what you're going to say. You're like, well, Air 3.4 yards equals first down if you do it 3 times. Yeah, the problem is they might average 3.4 yards a carry, but you're not getting 3.4 yards per tote. So, you know, I want to see more improvement. I don't know if we're going to see that this year, to be honest with you. I think there is a whole lot of off-season work that needs to be done, and they really need to play. If Trubisky starts going back and being as bad, and I heard comparisons of him to Ryan Finley, I almost wanted to laugh because it's like Ryan Finley stinks. And I know Trubisky does too, but Trubisky and Ryan Finley, if you had to give me a choice between Finley and Trubisky, I'll take Trubisky all day, 100 times over, twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know who Ryan Finley is, go watch a Bengals game. I digress. Right. They have a tough game coming up, but this other game that they had to win, and they did. And that's really all there really is to talk about.
Well, I will say this, Eric. It must be nice to beat a team you're supposed to beat. I wouldn't know what that's like because the Rams didn't win a game this week against an opponent they were supposed to beat. This shouldn't have been a close football game. They should have blown the doors off it. They had a quarterback that doesn't even have 16 starts under his belt, an offensive line that has been porous against good pass rushing teams, and I'm being kind. One wide receiver. You could tell me Vance McDonald is a great tight end. I'm going to then have to stop you with my laughter, okay? He's an average to okay tight end. Both the Ram tight ends are better than he is, right? He had one good game in his entire career. And I'm supposed to now think he's wonderful because he had one good game on primetime against the Buccaneers. Give me a break. I don't even know who the other tight end is. You know, their other two wide receivers are relatively no names, and this kid Williams looks like he could be pretty good. With all due respect, I do think he could be a pretty good wide receiver for Pittsburgh. Looks like a good find from Oklahoma State. I'm a big Mason Rudolph fan, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that there was no way this team should have won this game. And yet, now I'm going to rag on the Rams here for a minute. You don't roll your quarterback out when you know Havenstein can't block anybody. You have no continuity on the offensive line, so your solution is shotgun dropbacks. On 3rd and 2, you're going to run one of the most basic running plays out of shotgun when you cannot stop the rush up the A-gaps and wonder then, and you're going to do it with Bortles, who's incompetent. And apparently, I don't know how much of this I believe, apparently McVay said that that was a planned play. If that was a planned play, retire. Retire and go back to kindergarten where you belong.
I heard that, Andy. I heard and read that too, and I call BS on that.
I am 100% with you.
You're not going to bring in Bortles for a planned play. He's not Taysom Hill for the Saints, okay? He's not a gadget quarterback that you bring in and like, okay, we're going to run the Wildcat with him this one time and see how he does.
Right, and he's not even as mobile as Goff. Like, he wasn't known for being a running quarterback. Goff got hurt. I don't know why he decided to backtrack. Oh, Goff was fine. Bro, quit. Why are you lying? What is it accomplishing? I don't understand why, if he is lying, and you call BS, and I tend to agree with you 100% on that, what is the benefit to lying about that play that didn't yield anything? It'd be one thing if Bortles pulled it, faked everyone out, and went 30 yards upfield for a big first down, putting the Rams in field goal range. But he almost fumbled the snap because he wasn't expecting it. He entirely missed the mechanics of the handoff and then didn't even know where the first down marker was when he got outside the pocket. Why are you trying to claim that as your own? I don't understand McVay. And it's getting to the point now where it's now a problem because you're not even making sense and helping yourself when you have an opportunity. It's getting harder for me week in and week out to call this man a good coach. Now, I know he's got a crap deck. He's got one of the worst offensive lines, maybe in Ram history. And I'm not being sarcastic at all when I say that. I don't recall a line being this bad on all facets. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. But here's my issue. Knowing that, why don't you run screens? Why don't you run draws? Why don't you run traps? Why don't you get under center and get them before they get to you and allow your backs to make things happen? Todd Gurley averaged...
Because those are boring plays in the NFL and nobody wants to see a draw play.
Do you want to win the game or not? Todd Gurley...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Todd Gurley averaged 6.5 yards a carry in the I formation yesterday. 6.5 yards per carry when they ran him out of I. It might be a little lower than that. I think it was like 5.5. I said 6.5. It was 5.5. Both of his big runs came out of the I formation, not out of shotgun or single back formation where quarterback was under center. That's what I meant. Anytime the quarterback was under center and they ran him, whether it was I or ace, it worked. And then he's like, oh, you got two 22-yard runs? Yeah, you're not getting another carry the rest of this quarter. Why? I don't understand it. And then they took him out and they put in Malcolm Brown. Or the bust formerly known as Henderson, which is, he's just really too crappy to mention. He was garbage at Memphis. So you have all of that, and despite all of that, the Rams were in position to win the game. Now I'm going to get into the weeds of it. But before I get into the weeds of it, Eric, any comments on what I've touched on? Because there's a lot to blame here when it comes to the Rams. Between coaching, between O-line play, they were pathetic.
Let's see. Ineptitude offense to where you're not utilizing your best players. Like, why did Cooper Kupp only getting 4 targets and really done that until the second quarter?
Well, you want to know why? Because
I want to know why.
It's really simple. Goff couldn't get him the ball because he wasn't getting open. And when he was getting open, Jared Goff was getting a helmet in his face, not literally, but he was getting literally, utterly destroyed. 88% of his drop back passes were under pressure yesterday. He got hit 39% of the time. He's now been hit more times than any other quarterback in the last 3 years or 2 years combined. He's on pace to shatter the Rams record.
Well, it's not going to get any easier.
No, it isn't. So it's not all on Kupp, but it's not all on Goff.
No, I didn't say it was on Kupp. I'm just wondering why Kupp wasn't seeing more passes. Like, why aren't you running slants? Why aren't you running out to the sideline or whatever? I mean, like, oh wait, hold on, those are boring plays. Nobody wants to see those.
Right, exactly. Why not run your jet sweeps? Try those out. Try to loosen them up a little bit. Open up the middle. A fake jet sweep and a handoff up the middle. There were lots of things they could have done. None of them they did. So let me just start by saying there is plenty of blame to go around here to the Rams. But to the Steeler Nation, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. And you guys, you love to comment, okay? But I seem to recall you all crying like a bunch of little girls when you lost to New England due to the catch rule. See, when the shoe's on the other foot, now you complain. But the minute the shoe's not on the other foot...
Hold on. When was the last time they beat New England in the game?
Right. Before Tom Brady was quarterback. My favorite of all of it is when somebody's like, bro, where were you when the Rams got the PI call? Eric, who was the first person to call BS on that call?
Let's see, Mike and it was Trey. Yeah, that's right, Anthony.
Yeah, it was me. Who was the first one to say we didn't deserve to win that game?
That was, let's see, Colin Coward, Stephen. It was Anthony.
It was me. That's right. Who's the first one to say that I'll take it, but it feels tainted?
That'd be you.
Yeah, that'd be me. So Steeler Nation, please tune into our show. I think you'll find that I'm one of the most honest and forthright people you'll ever hear do sports. Am I bitter at the...
Right, he's been dead on the last 2 years.
3.
In regards to the Rams.
3
3
years.
years. 3 years.
Mhm.
3 years.
Yeah. I called this poop storm way back when the Ramley was attacking me. Okay? I'm not faulting the Steeler fans for taking this win and running with it. Hell, I would do it. I wouldn't feel good about it, and therein lies the dilemma. Is there a lot of Steeler fans like, dude, there was no penalty. I don't know what you're talking about. You can't complain about PI. It wasn't a fumble. I'm sorry. It was a fumble. It wasn't a forward pass. Really, dude? Really? You're just either stupid, delusional, or you're kidding yourself. It's okay to benefit from the bad call. My other favorite is when people are like, one bad play doesn't cost you a game. Let me explain something to you as a coach. Oh, and yes, I can't remember the comment. I can't pull it up right now. I want to so badly, and I will when Eric talks. I got called a snowflake on YouTube. Snowflake. Okay, watch my man monologues and see how much of a snowflake I am. Wow, that was funny. I'm a snowflake. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. First of all, as a coach, any coach who's even this good at the sport will tell you there are hidden yardage and there are hidden points. I was watching a playoff game between the New York Giants, or I'm sorry, between the in this case, it was the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers from '93. And I hear the announcers talk about the interception by George Teague, how it was a 14-point swing. That the interception stopped a Lion touchdown, and it turned into a Packer touchdown because he went 101 yards for a touchdown. And they talked about hidden points. Now, again, I don't expect Steeler Nation to know that because I don't think those Steeler fans that were commenting on my show watched football pre-2001. And if you did, then you should be ashamed of yourself. Because you know damn good and well that's a real thing. And I shouldn't have to explain to you that through the course of a football game, there are hidden yardage and there are hidden points. And like the great Joe Gibbs said when he was a coach, the problem with hidden points is you don't see them on the scoreboard and they always come back and hurt you. And more often than not, when you lose a game, you can point to those hidden points that went away. And unfortunately today, in today's football, those hidden points, they're being gifted by officials left and right. Eric, simple question. Did Jared Goff fumble that ball that made it 14-7?
So I have a two-part answer for this. Now, we all watch football as if a team is going right to left or left to right. And if you watch the play on the normal camera angle, it looks blatantly like a forward pass. Now, if you look at the same play from behind, I can see where it's questionable. But questionable is not definitive. And you have to be definitive with the ball out of your hand without it moving forward. Watch the replay, guys. Watch the replay. His arm was already moving forward.
Yeah.
And then the ball was coming out. That's an incomplete pass. Incomplete. How there was no hell raised in regards to this play by anybody at the Rams kind of makes me scratch my head.
Oh, I'm gonna get to that, buddy. Don't you worry your mind. I will.
I mean, I didn't hear any of the post game or anything like that. But like there should have been something going on in the field. Like Sean McVay should have been standing out on the 50-yard line logo saying, "We're not playing until you reverse this call."
Or, at the very least, make a deal about it. Right? I get it. You're not going to get the call. Okay. Be pissed. get a penalty. You know what I mean? Like a 15-yard penalty on the kickoff. Okay, so they kick it through the end zone. All right, there's 30 seconds to go in the half. That's not going to hurt you. And you make a statement. And your players know you got their back. There's none of that. I'm going to get to why there was none of that. That was as bad as Tom Brady's tuck rule call. It was the only difference is one was a playoff game.
Times, bro. It happened 2 more times the same day.
I know, in the same game.
Well, no, not even in the same game. It happened against Aaron Rodgers in the end zone, okay, against the Panthers. Well, no, Aaron Rodgers, flag, roughing the passer. Or it wasn't roughing the passer. It happened in the Cowboys-Vikings game. Did Dak fumble? No. Forward pass, and it was a legit forward pass, too. So,
well, how about Mason Rudolph's obvious fumble? His arm's going forward, but he still had the ball, and then the ball slipped out. So let me explain what I mean. He did the throwing motion, okay, and then his arm stopped. So he stopped the forward motion. As he was pulling the ball back, the ball slipped out. Now, if you're going to call that not a fumble, which I tend to agree with, by the way, for the record, I don't believe that was a fumble, but that was a hell of a lot more questionable, and they blew it dead. They didn't blow it dead in the Ram game when the Rams fumbled, and there's a difference there too. If they blow it dead, they're saying it's incomplete. The Rams can challenge, but it's got to be definitive. When you call it a fumble and let the play stand, then the replay has to be definitive. And what's definitive? We know with the pass interference penalty that isn't being done by the NFL officials, there is no definitive guideline. It's whatever I think is definitive in New York. That is hilarious to me.
There are no definitive definitions in the NFL rule.
No, there isn't. So you're at the whim of these douchebags.
What's a catch? What's a catch?
Don't ask. I don't know.
What's pass interference?
Right? Here's the thing. I get it. Okay? Unlike the Saint fans, for you Steeler fans are like, oh, you're such a crybaby, you don't have the right to complain. Let me explain something to you. I'm not asking to change the result of this outcome. Okay? I'm not demanding that the NFL changes the outcome. I'm demanding that the NFL starts firing officials, fining them, penalizing them, being openly, hey, knock this off. That's all I want. That's it. If I can get fined by the NFL as a player, why can't these a-holes in zebra stripes get fined for friggin' games up? And if anybody thinks that's an unreasonable request, I tap out. I don't know what else to do. Pittsburgh fans, you got the win. Good on you. Your team is garbage. I'm sorry. This year, not ordinarily, and you got some really nice pieces moving forward. But this is a bad football team, and they're 5-4. And they're being made 5-4 by some pretty unbelievable officiating. This should have been, at minimum, it should have been a 4-5 team. And to say that your defense is better than the Bears, okay, bro. And the WWE is real, right? Okay. And boxing's never been fixed. I don't know what to say. Now, I'm not bitter because there's a lot of blame to go here to the Rams. But there is no question that this close contest, once again, was directly impacted by 5 officials. Pittsburgh doesn't win this game without that fumble. They don't. Their offense couldn't move the football. They scored 10 points. And if you watch my pregame show, that's how many points I said they would score. Yeah, am I complaining about pass interference? I'm complaining about the inconsistency in which it was called. If you're going to allow Juju Smith-Schuster to push off, then how do you call Jalen Ramsey for incidental contact? How do you not call it against Hayden covering Cooper Kupp on a slant pattern over the middle when his shoulder pad is flapping in the wind. He obviously was held. Like, I don't understand. I'm not asking for a lot. You're going to let him play. But if you're going to call it tight, then call it tight for both sides. And even Daryl Johnston had a problem with the inconsistency of the pass interference penalties in that game. The end of the game, the touchdown that was, the Rams should have had first and goal at the 1. That was every bit as obvious and egregious as Nickel Roby-Coleman's PI against New Orleans. Every bit as egregious. And let me tell you something.
You're talking about the double team on Josh Reynolds?
Yeah.
Dude,
Eric,
I would have a...
Go back and watch the play. They held him.
I watched it.
Eric, they held him. They face guarded him. They hit him early. You cannot dispute that. They held him on the initial route to the end zone, and I'm not talking about within the first 5 yards. I'm talking about once he split the double team. The guy that knocked the ball away made no effort to look back for the football. That's face guarding. Under any definition, Pop Warner to professional football, that's face guarding. He made no effort to look back for the ball. And then he hit him early. He brought his arm down on his hands and didn't let him catch the football.
I've seen worse.
The Nickel Roby-Coleman play was every bit as bad and obvious. Right? I'm not saying...
That was blatant. This was ticky-tacky.
Really? See, this is your Steeler fan coming out. Okay? Ticky-tacky is calling Jalen Ramsey...
It wouldn't matter if you're playing the Niners, the Seahawks, the Cardinals.
Yes, it would. It would.
Or the Lions. No, the play in question, it doesn't matter who the wide receiver is or who the quarterbacks are.
It shouldn't. You really believe if that's Tom Brady and the Patriots, they're not calling PI and putting the ball at the 1 yard line?
I don't believe it was that blatant.
Okay. Well, Eric, the face guarding alone was blatant. Did he make any effort to look back for the football? Any?
95% of the time they don't.
That's face guarding. That's blatant face guarding. Period. I rest my case on that alone. When you grab jersey and pull it from the man's body, is that holding? When it's 25 yards downfield? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, say it again?
When you pull jersey off a man's body 25 yards downfield, is that holding? Yes or no?
Should be called every time. I've seen all the time.
Okay.
It's called.
But again, blatant. Missed. Okay.
I agree, yeah.
Now, the only one that one could argue was, and I'm sorry, the man's arm was hit well before the ball got there. Like, on the replay, it took like 5 seconds before the ball came into the frame. So it's not like it was arm was hit, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, there's the ball. It's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, there's the ball. That's not bang bang. I'm not asking for much, but if you're going to call Jalen Ramsey for falling down and clipping incidentally the ankle of the wide receiver, how the F are you not calling that? It's just another straw on this camel's back. That's all it is. And you could call, and I'm sorry, but it's funny to me in this regard. I admit the Rams PI play against New Orleans was blatant. But this friggin' PI call that wasn't called at the end of the Steeler game was every bit as blatant. And it's funny to me how everyone seems to disagree. Really? You had 3 different penalties that weren't called on that play. I'm asking for one. Make your pick. Just like the Ram penalty, right? Okay, let's say it wasn't PI, which it was. It's illegal contact. He got, it's helmet to helmet. Take your pick. 3 different penalties they missed in that Saint game. I admit that was a well-missed call. Absolutely blatant missed call. But you can't then turn around when another one happens against the Rams because you don't like the Rams, go, I don't see it. I don't know how you don't see it. Face guarding. Holding.
Here's an idea. Maybe the Rams should complain so much now throughout the rest of the season that we're able to challenge pass interference penalties.
Oh, wait, we already can.
Oh, wait, yeah, but it's not even that good.
Well, it's because they refuse to do it,
Well,
right?
How many have been overturned? A handful? Give me a freaking break.
Here's my biggest issue. My biggest issue isn't that I'm complaining about that PI call. It's another example, right? Here's another thing for lost yardage. It's not how many penalties are called on a team. I don't know why people don't understand this. It has nothing to do with penalty amount. It's like in the NBA. It's when they're called. If I call holding on a third down conversion that created a first down, like they did against the Rams 3 times in the second half, well, now it's 3rd and 20. I'm not getting 20 yards on one play. I call holding on first down. Now you've got time to make that up. And if anybody doesn't think that's important, you are a gosh darn idiot. And I will not waste my breath with your ignorance. There is oxygen old people could be using that you are wasting. It is so obvious that when penalties are called matters. When was that pass interference, face guarding, or holding penalty missed at the end of the Ram game? Oh, it was on 4th down. It was on 4th down. If that was missed on 1st down, would it have been as impactful? Probably not. And it's funny to me how many times the Steelers were given different definitions of pass interference in their favor, but then for the Rams, they called it like the NFC Championship game was yesterday or the week before. See, the Rams already got their payback. For those of you that hate the Rams, they got their payback. Go watch Super Bowl 53, the BS call on Nickel Roby-Coleman early in the game. The obviously blatant, we are making up for the Saints play right here, right now call. Talk about hidden yardage. That led to a Patriot field goal, which stood as the only points scored until the 3rd quarter. After the Rams had gotten a stop the previous drive with an interception and a 3, and they were about to get a 3 and out and get the ball at midfield and had all the momentum. But there's no such thing as hidden yardage or hidden points. That's not a thing. You get a penalty against you in the 1st quarter, you can recover from that. I'm not even going to get into the details on how many times that has not bared fruit. You don't get those points back. You're constantly chasing them. The Rams could never get those 7 points off the board that Pittsburgh got illegitimately on the fumble. That wasn't. They were never able to get those points back. And if you take those 7 points off the board, it's a 12-10 final. Maybe Pittsburgh goes for a field goal and makes it 13-12. Fine, I'll give you that. Where were the Rams at the end of the game? Well in range for Greg Zuerlein. They're not throwing the ball to Reynolds in the end zone on 4th down. They're tracking Zuerlein out to see if he can't kick a game-winning field goal like he's done so many times. Ask New Orleans. Is there a possibility he misses it like he did against Seattle? Absolutely. But it would have been nice to have that opportunity. See, I didn't complain about the Seahawks game. I didn't complain when the Rams lost to Tampa Bay. I didn't complain when the Rams lost to San Francisco. I ripped the Rams a new one. This, they didn't lose. It was stolen from them. Now, let me explain something to you. You said earlier, Eric, why the Rams didn't react the way they, how they didn't. I'll tell you why. It's obvious. You know what it is?
We talked about this earlier, but let everybody know.
Yeah, I'll let everyone know. You could change the name of the NFL to the WWE. It's all scripted. The Rams didn't react to the fumble because they were told in warm-ups they were going to lose the game. They were told. And the Steelers didn't act like that was a big deal because they knew they were going to win the game. Not because they thought they were a better team, because they were told they were going to win the game. Because, see, as a coach, I'm going to keep saying that, okay? You can put that in parentheses all you want. I'm gonna mention you. You get the mention. You get the most cited quotation from me in this show because I just love that. I gotta say, dude, it really made me laugh calling me a snowflake. But as a coach, I will tell you, when you are beating a team that either you don't believe you're supposed to be, you're not on paper supposed to beat, you're not favored to beat, but even more importantly, when you're playing a team that is supposedly as good as the Rams have been billed by the media, and it's legit, man, you get excited when those plays happen. You go up and down the sidelines, you'd celebrate. The only people that celebrated that touchdown was Fitzpatrick, and that was it. Go watch the replay. Take a look at the Steelers sidelines. They're not celebrating. Their head coach, I saw more emotion out of him when they scored touchdowns against the Colts than I did against the Rams. Where was the emotion? I knew. This is one of those games they had on the calendar. You lose, you win. Don't worry about it. And that's why these officials don't get ripped by the media or get ripped by the coaches in the post game. I mentioned that on the first reaction show. Dude, I'd be must-see TV. I'd be pay-per-view material, man. The stuff I'd say about officials, man, the fans, they would love it. The NFL, they would hate it. But I'd expose it for all it was worth. I'm sorry. Forget the Steelers. Maybe Pittsburgh's that arrogant. Maybe you Steeler fans are going to be like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. Steelers knew they were a better team. Fine. I'm not going to argue with you. Pittsburgh knew they were going to win because they felt like they were just that much of a better team. Whatever. It doesn't excuse or explain why the Rams didn't react the way they should have. I would have been on the field. I would have been cussing. They would have had to cut my mic. I would have gotten a penalty, and I'd have mentioned it first thing out of the box in the press conference. I would let everyone know that was a forward pass. But yet the Rams, they didn't say anything. Not Jared Goff. Not Sean McVay. Not a statement by the owner.
I would have bet he's usually the first one to say something.
Right? But the only explanation is one of two things. Either he believed he fumbled the ball, which is okay. We know that's not true. Because he stayed on the field fully expecting it to be turned over. And his reaction, there was shock on his face. But then there was acceptance. The other reason is you're told. Now, there was a Jaguar that already commented that the AFC Championship game was rigged. When they came out of the locker room at halftime, the officials told them they were going to lose the game. That was a tweet by a Jaguar DB. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Jalen Ramsey, but it was somebody. It was a big story. Might
have been AJ Bouye.
Might have been. Is he in the NFL anymore?
I think he's still with the Jaguars.
Isn't that interesting, though? He got fined for that comment. Okay. So we already know this happens. It's not. Here's my issue. It's not that it's rigged. It's not that the Rams lost that bothers me. It's not even that the games are rigged that it bothers me. What bothers me is they're disingenuous. They don't tell the fans. They're lying to our faces, and then they're trying to pretend like it's down the middle. And those on the inside, Steelers, Patriots, Seahawks, the Packers, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, because they're the flavor of the month. Okay. These teams that are on the inside, the Dallas Cowboys, okay, they don't complain because they know. I will say it is a little bit alarming Dallas hasn't been to a Super Bowl in a while. I don't know if they fell out of favor, if they got a problem with Jerry Jones. I don't know what the deal is there. But those fans that have always been on the inside, they don't see a problem. And why should they? But to the other 26 teams that are outside in the cold, we see it. Just be forthright with it. I say all of this with confidence. The Rams are going to win a Super Bowl either the first year in the new stadium or the second year. Not because I think the Rams are that good. I think they got a lot of talent. but it's because they're in LA and they can't afford this to fail. Not with the Chargers struggling the way they are. I won't be surprised if this season gets resurrected at the last minute and the Rams get in. And then they get blown out in the playoffs because, hey, they made it. Who cares? I won't be.
Hey, I wanna hold on. I want to give you guys a quick update. Brandon Cooks is out for the Bears game, and Havenstein will get to face Khalil Mack because he's out as well, and Brendan Allen is out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, I knew Allen was out for the rest of the season, but that could be good that we don't have Havenstein in.
Oh, yeah, just replace it with Austin Corbett. That makes everything better.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it was great. Oh, here it is. Orly Ray. The Rams are buns. Get over it. I think he meant bums. So I do typos all the time. I totally get it. I'm not going to rag him on that. So he said the Rams are bums. Get over it. I don't think they're bums. This is one of the dumbest videos I've seen in quite a while. As a coach, he put in quotation marks. Same guy. You're not a coach. You're a snowflake crybaby. Okay, I'm a snowflake. Wow, bro. In my classroom, I have a sign that says snowflakes melt here. I like I said, I'm not asking for the outcome to be changed. Pittsburgh won the game. It is what it is. I'll leave the crying to the Saint fans. I'll leave the protesting the Super Bowl and.
Did you really just say that?
Oh yeah, I do. It does. It really does. Yeah. But the funny thing is.
By the way, I think that's hilarious because I think they cry a lot too.
Oh, they do. They do. It's the New Orleans crybabies. But, again, it's the Saints. Let me, again, because I know somebody's going to watch the video and go, dude, you're so hypocritical. I can't stand you. You're dumb. You're stupid. You're that. Again, the difference is so cut and dry. I'm upset at officiating because the officials have no repercussions when they screw up. I'm not asking for the outcome to change. I'm not asking for a rule change. I'm simply asking for officials to be fired, fined, or suspended when they do this crap. Those guys that reffed the NFC Championship game last year, they should be out of work. They shouldn't see the inside of a stadium again unless they pay for a ticket. And I'd give them tickets to Louisiana and the Superdome for free. Right? I don't care about the fact that Pittsburgh won.
Dude, the knife is already deep enough in the back of Saints fans, all right?
Look, again.
You know why?
Because we beat them 27-9 earlier this year?
No, because they should have ran the ball.
There it is. Should have run the ball. Right. All I'm saying is find these officials when they screw up. The Cleveland game is still the most egregious game I've seen this year. It may be one of the worst games officiating-wise I think I've ever seen. And I had another person comment on that, and the guy was very respectful and cool about it. And he's like, there was only one bad call. Bro, no, there wasn't. And again, it's when penalties are called. It's not the amount, it's when penalties were called. And in the first half, the Browns were not allowed to get a first down, or so it appeared for a good stretch of that first half, or second half, rather. So for me, I give credit to the Steelers. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what did they do? They held the Rams to 3 points offensively. Okay, they had a lot of help in doing it, but they still accomplished that, right? They still ran the ball, kept the Rams defense on the field, and they did what they needed to do to win the game. When the calls went their way, they capitalized off of it. That's all you can ask a team to do. So my beef is not with the Pittsburgh Steelers. My beef is with the referees giving games away. And this is that 9th or 10th close game that you can directly go to the officiating and go, there it is. A touchdown that should never have happened went in their favor. Even in the Ram game, right? You talk about when you blow the whistle. The Rams against the Saints earlier this year, week 2. The Jared Goff penalty, right? Or the Jared Goff fumble. that they blew the whistle on and said it was an incomplete pass. The Saints could challenge it, but it had to be conclusive. It's with that conclusive rule, you benefit one way or the other. So, again, the difference between the Rams and Saints in week 2 in this game is the Rams won 27-9. The final score to this game was 17-12. And what happens when you take the 7 points away from the Rams? They won 20-9. What happens when you take the 7 points away from the Steelers? They lose 12-10. So it's just mind-boggling to me that people can be this close-minded. They can be this blatantly hypocritical. And more importantly, that people can't just get on board and admit that these officials in the NFL are absolutely trash and they're ruining the product. I cannot watch this sport anymore and take it seriously. When I see a guy make a catch and they talk about, oh, that was a board, I'm glad the officials didn't make the call. They allowed him to play. I chuckle now. I chuckle.
Oh, that Troy Aikman is hilarious. That's a great no call.
Yeah, I chuckle because it's all in the script. It's all in the script. And I've said this, Eric, how long have I been complaining about officiating in the NFL? I want a straight answer because I give me a legit number because I told the fans I'd pin you down.
How long have I known? I've known you for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
At least 15.
At least 15 years I've commented on the officiating. Yeah, that would be about right. That would be about right. 2003, that'd be 2003. So it's probably more like 12. 4, 5, 6, 7. 2007, 2008, right around there. So it's been over 11 years that I brought this conversation up and people just roll their eyes and, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm convinced, and no one will change my mind, that these games are rigged. That when they meet in March at those meetings, they sit those owners down and they say, you're making the playoffs, you're making the playoffs, you're out. You're making the playoffs, you're making the playoffs, you're out. Charge accordingly. Make your free agent moves accordingly because you're not making the playoffs. What did the Rams do? Well, the Rams go and get Jalen Ramsey. They don't address their O-line. If they wanted to make the playoffs, they would have left Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville and they would have went after a lineman. If not Trent Williams, somebody. You could have gotten any offensive lineman in football from one of the teams that are out of the playoff picture for a first, a first, and a second round pick, which is what the Rams used to get Jalen Ramsey. You could have gotten any offensive lineman in football for that amount. What do the Rams do? No, they don't address the O-line. They get Jalen Ramsey. They trade away Marcus Peters, who, oh, by the way, is elevated the Baltimore defense to a whole nother level. They got rid of Aqib Talib. They're now 1-0 with the Talib on the team. I know he's injured, so that really doesn't count. But 2-0 since Talib went there. So you get rid of those two corners for Jalen Ramsey, who isn't an upgrade. Sorry, he's not an upgrade from those two. It's a wash. I would take those two over Jalen any day of the week. I would take Jalen over one of them individually, but I wouldn't take them both out of the equation for one guy. Ty Hill's trash. Ty Hill's trash. And he's our other corner. So, again, it's obvious that the Rams knew they weren't going to make the playoffs this year if that turns out to be the case. And like I said, the only way I see them making the playoffs is if they get bailed out at the last minute. So my whole thing is this. If you're going to fix the league, okay, and there are people out there that are like, oh, Anthony's been rigged for years. One guy said they have been open about it. When? When has the NFL openly come out and said, yeah, games are rigged? Like the wrestlers, like wrestling did. Wrestling straight up said, yeah, the games, of course the matches are fixed. That was known common knowledge within the WWE universe. I don't know of anybody who's retired from the NFL that came out and said games are fixed. Name one. They're not open about it at all. It's obvious to those on the inside and to fans that are paying attention. Of course the games are rigged. Been saying it for years, but they haven't been open about it. And now they're just in your face about it. They're still not saying they're rigged, but they're like, what are you going to do? So there's going to be a format change. And I'm not going to talk about too much more here. First and foremost, I want to talk about this. This week, we're going to try something different. We're going to talk about the Rams and Bears only because this is their game and we're taking a break from the other teams. So for those of you that follow other teams, we might pick a game or two to talk about in the post game. But for the pregame, we're just going to talk about the Rams and Bears. And there's several things that Eric's going to talk about that I'm going to talk about, what to look for in those things. So we'll get into the dynamics of that. The other thing that is kind of the breaking news that I wanted to tell everyone is this. We are going to podcast. Like LT, I'm on Anchor, so it goes to all of the other podcasts. So if you guys go to Spotify or do me a favor. And I know I'm straight up putting this out to Cliff. Cliff, I want you to do me a favor. Cliff or April, if you guys have anything related, I don't know why I'm fixing my hat like this. If you guys have anything even close to a podcasting audio capability, I want you to look up. It'll either be Total Football Talk or Total Sports Talk. I made the change already on the main Gmail account, so I don't know if that translates over to the podcast. But do me a favor, and this goes to anyone, not just April or Cliff. This can be MM Forever. LT already did this and said he found me. Type in either Total Sports Talk or Total Football Talk and locate. It should say trailer. Total Football Talk trailer will be the title, and it's about 1 minute and 1 second long. I want to know if you have access to it, and then comment on YouTube so I know, because moving forward, when we do the format change next year, we're going full blown podcast. I'll do a show, put the podcast notification on this page, on the YouTube page, and then you guys can go listen to it. And I'll do like a quick little synopsis of what we covered here. When Eric finally moves out here, which is just around the corner, we'll still do a video or two together so you can see us together as we talk. And we'll put that up there. But that's going to be a little bit more broad or general version of what we talked about on the podcast. And then we'll put the podcast link up here. The other thing that I'm excited to mention is this move into Total Sports Talk. We're still going to have a football bend in the sense that we're going to cover the XFL heavily. We'll cover the NFL still and some college football, but I at least want you guys to get to know how unbelievably knowledgeable Eric is in baseball. I have never met a person as knowledgeable in baseball as I am in football, and Eric is that guy. If I'm Yoda for football, as LT likes to call me, then he's Yoda of baseball. We will cover some basketball, mostly college hoops. I might cover the conference championship games in basketball just because I know that some of you do like basketball too. But I'm not going to lie to you. My knowledge in basketball is somewhere between 1 and 3. That's it. On a scale from 1 to 1,000,000. Okay, so it ain't much. But it's enough that I can at least talk about what I, saw in the playoff games. But as far as regular season coverage goes, I can't. It's not a sport I'm into. But we are going to get into hockey a little bit. So I want to know if there's an interest in hockey for you guys as well. I'm a big Coyotes fan and a Penguins fan. Eric is a fan of a AAA team that no one ever heard of. They're garbage. You probably, whether the Chicago Blackhawks, something like that. I don't know what they're called. Some garbage team no one likes. But that's besides the point. Go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry. Did you say something? I'm admiring my 3 cups this decade.
Whatever. I got 3 cups for the Penguins, but not for the Coyotes. I don't even have a cup, let alone a cup. But anyway, so Bears and Rams, let's get into it. There's a lot to say about the Ram game. But Do you have anything that you want to add? I mean, you're a Steeler fan, so and that's your second favorite team. So, real quick before we get into the Rams and Bears, kind of give me your wrap up.
I mean, you pretty much said everything. I don't know how the Steelers are doing. I know their defense is playing a lot better, but I just don't know how they're doing it and getting these wins. Like I really didn't foresee the Rams going in there and not being able to control the ball, not being able to will their way down the field, and the Steelers had other ideas. There's just a lot of mental mistakes, no blocking, turnovers, or whatnot, and it's like, take care of the ball.
Yeah.
So, that's a problem that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, you don't have a cupcake luck this coming up week, so let the turnovers commence.
Yeah, right. Well, look, again, credit the Steelers defense. They played well. Help or no help, they played well. And the Rams did not. And maybe the Rams didn't deserve to win the game, but that doesn't. There's a lot of times teams don't deserve to win, and they do. Circa Patriots versus Bills this year. New England didn't deserve to beat Buffalo, but they beat them. So it's not a matter of who deserves the win. It's a matter of who earns the win. And it's Pittsburgh played a hell of a game defensively, but it's really difficult for me to say you earned anything. But the defense definitely earns some respect for those like myself that didn't think this defense was anything but smoke and mirrors. Like I said, I'm a big Bama fan, so Mika Fitzpatrick has been one of my favorite players for the Alabama Crimson Tide in probably the last decade. The only one that I can think of that I liked more, I mean, my top 3 Alabama players of all time is Jay Barker, played quarterback in the 90s. Jay Barker, favorite all time. It's not even close. And yes, Derek Thomas played for Alabama too, but Jay Barker, Antonio Langham, and David Palmer. And then Mika Fitzpatrick and Tommy Protho would probably be my top 5. Protho's career unfortunately came to an end when his leg shattered after a touchdown against Florida in Alabama. That was an ugly injury. And who knows how great he could have been. I think he was better than what's his name in Atlanta, Julio Jones. But we'll never know because of the injury. But, I love Mika Fitzpatrick. So I'm glad he's on a team that at least is a part of the equation and in the circle because he's going to get an opportunity to play in some big games, and that could always be fun. Okay, Bears Rams, Eric. You do your. Let me do mine first because I'm simple, so I'll go quick. The Rams can't block anybody. Their offense isn't fooling anybody. They have now more problems than 2 math books on the offensive line. Todd Gurley's checked out and doesn't want anything to do with the organization, and I don't blame him. The Rams are going to continue to drop Jared Goff back 60 to 65 times without any protection. And I don't know how he's stayed healthy. I think it really is a measuring stick on just how tough this kid is. I don't think there's a tougher quarterback in professional football than Jared Goff. He has taken a pounding this year, and he's missed 1 snap, and that was apparently by design, ? I've been impressed with his toughness. His play needs to improve, but how does it improve when you're permanently removing Pittsburgh Steelers from the side of your face? I don't know. And it's not going to get any better at home against Chicago. The Rams defense can't do it alone. I think the officials will stay out of this game because they don't care about either one of these teams. And don't ask me why the Bears aren't a favorite son, considering they're the original son. But they must have fallen out of favor too at some point. But either way, I don't think the Rams have an answer for the Bears defense. I think the Bears defense is a lot better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I mean, as bad as the Bears offense is, they scored 3 touchdowns against a Detroit team that's improving, and granted they were home. So I'm going to go easy. I'll go simple. I'm going to say 13-3, Chicago.
Huh. That's like coming up with the Super Bowl score from last season.
Yeah, right?
All right. Well, all right. So you got your problems. The Bears have their problems. The Bears have a worse quarterback than the Rams. I mean, but at least our quarterback throws for over 100 yards in a game.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a lot of three outs, and that does not spell W-I-N. So really, here's what I'm looking forward to in this matchup. I'm looking to see who gets contained better. Does Aaron Donald get contained better up the middle? Or does Khalil Mack get contained better on the outside? Well, I think Aaron Donald gets contained a little bit better up the middle, and Khalil Mack might have himself a field day. However, I do like the Rams' offensive weapons as far as wide receivers go, but I am very much looking forward to Allen Robinson versus Jalen Ramsey. With that all being said, the Bears still average 3.4 yards per carry. Mitch Trubisky is still our quarterback, so I'll be kind, I'll be gentle. 16-10 Rams.
Wow. Not a homer pick, huh?
Not a homer pick.
Didn't we do this last year when they played? We did,
yes.
I picked the Bears, you picked the Rams. The Bears beat the Rams.
Well, I mean, granted, the Bears' defense was 20 times better than it was last year compared to this year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley wanted no part of playing in that game last year.
Yeah. It was freaking cold, man. All right. Well, there you have it.
Cold. Shut your mouth. It was cold. You want to know cold? 1985 NFC Championship game was colder. I don't want to hear the cold crap.
Yeah, well, it wasn't 1985, and these guys probably weren't even born then, so shut your face.
1985, yeah. It was really cold, and they were still talking about climate change.
But you know what they weren't talking about? They weren't talking about controlled genocide like they are now. They weren't asking people to eat. They weren't asking people to eat corpses and bugs. So there was at least that in the 80s. But yeah, they were still talking climate change. Yeah, climate's change. Go to Florida. It's different from Arizona. Climates change every day. Anyway, I could get into a whole topic on that. All right, well, look, before we offend any more people, I would just like to say, on behalf of the world's worst snowflake, I'm never gonna forget that. As the world's worst snowflake, let me just be the first to say that this season, a lot of people are talking about it's over, it's over, it's over. I believe in the old Yogi Berra mantra. It's not over till it's over, but I will tell you, she's warming her pipes. And let me tell you something. She's hitting the notes, and she's ready to sing that chorus. So there is still a lot to be determined down the stretch, but we will see. So I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
And I say horns up.
Bear down.
Go Rams!
Go Bears.
Bye.